Hello, my name is Noah Needleman, and I will be presenting you a little speech right now. I've gone over the time limit way too many times, so I'm going to do my best to keep it quick and keep it brief. So let's get right into it. So, would you believe me if I told you that anti-Semitism was a prominent issue in our society? Well, I hope you will, but unfortunately, a lot of people don't believe that. They think that anti-Semitism doesn't exist anymore, but my aim of this speech is to inform you that it does exist. So, have you ever felt out of place in society? Because no one should. Regardless of who you are or where you come from, you should have a place. So that's why hate and prejudice is outdated. So, this is a topic central to my being as a Jewish person, and this is something that I have researched very carefully throughout my life, and I know extremely well. So, I would like to educate the audience, you, about anti-Semitism in the 21st century, and I'm going to talk about first I'm going to define anti-Semitism, but then I'm going to talk about France, the Charlottesville rallies, and anti-Semitism across college campuses. So let's get right into it. So first, let's define anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is the hate or prejudice against Jewish people. And in France, anti-Semitism is on the rise. So here's a quick quote. 7 out of 10 French Jews experienced anti-Semitic attacks. 64% experienced verbal assault. 44% have been mocked or insulted, and 23% have experienced physical violence. And now, this is a survey from the AJC, which is a I think it's a non-governmental organization, yet it tracks all these sorts of matters. And this same survey said that people from the age of 18 to 24, French Jews, 84% more likely than the general population, 70%, to experience any of these attacks. So that means is that a lot of these things are happening in schools and with kids that are our age and older, around our age. And that's a horrifying thought to think about, to think that someone that's my age and that's Jewish in France could be getting fucking beaten up just for being Jewish. Now, you might be thinking, well, don't overreact. Those are just numbers. But I'm here to tell you that the fear is justified. The nervousness is justified in France, because on January 7th in 2015, there was an attack on Charlie Hebdo magazine. It's a satirical newspaper, or a satirical magazine in France, and 2 gunmen stormed it and killed 15 people. Now, 2 days later, a kosher supermarket was attacked by their comrade. 4 Jewish men were killed in a kosher supermarket. There have been many attacks since in France, and there have been a lot of dead people, but none ring truer than that. They were just going about doing their Shabbat shopping, and they were targeted due to the fact that they were Jewish. So when we talk about fear and nervousness in France, it's very justified. So that's going to go right into our next point, which is the exodus from France. So here's another quote. 52% of French Jews have considered leaving. 52% have considered leaving. That's over half the population of French Jews have said, we're going to leave there and go to Israel, which is their preferred destination choice. And you know what? It makes sense. France is not safe for Jewish people. It's actually considered to be the most dangerous country in all of Europe if you're Jewish. And it's really horrifying to think about. You know, there's a second exodus going on in France. The first mass exodus of Jewish life in France was after the Holocaust. But it's happening again today due to the anti-Semitism that's prevalent in their society. So, let's move on. So France exists geographically far away, yet much closer to us. We can look at the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville. So we're first going to talk about the rise of the alt-right. And we can tie this directly to the rally, and not just the rally itself, but by the actions following the rally by Donald J. Trump, our current president. He said that there were some very fine people on both sides in reference to the rally. This comes straight from Politico Twitter. This is a direct quote that he said on live news. He said that there are some fine people on both sides in reference to the protesters and counter-protesters. However, that may not seem like an alarming statement. However, it is, because these protesters were shouting things such as blood and soil and Jews will not replace us. This rally was not filled with protesters. It was filled with white nationalists and neo-Nazis and skinheads. Yet our president defended them. And in another survey, the ADL said the U.S. has recorded 2,100 cases of anti-Semitic assault, violence, and harassment, an increase of over 12% since the ADL began tracking in 1979. This is the highest level ever in the subsequent year after this, in 2017. And you know why? It's because of what Donald Trump said. The rise of the alt-right and the rise of anti-Semitism can be tied directly to his actions and his words, not condemning them. Now, not only does it exist in college campuses, it actually exists all over. Not only does, it exists in college campuses too, anti-Semitism. We're going to talk about the BDS movement. So the BDS movement is actually really big on college campuses. It's called Boycott, Diversify, and Sanction, in reference to Israel. So really the goal of this movement is to defund Israel and force them, basically make them run out of money so they can't function as a country. And this is horrifying to think about as a Jew. But it should be horrifying for you to think about, because these same people, according to Brandeis University, are actually promoting anti-Semitic behavior. Because the thing is that anti-Semitism and anti-Israel go hand in hand. They're basically the same thing. So we're almost running out of time, so we're going to go really quick. So no more learning. This is why this should be important for all of you. I hope you learned something about anti-Semitism today in my brief little speech. So I hope you learned about anti-Semitism in France, the Charlottesville rallies, and anti-Semitism in college campuses. And I just want you to take away one quote. Today me, tomorrow you. What affects me today will affect you tomorrow. And that's it. Goodbye.